What's it like to be a rock star in the IFBB figure world, to grace the Olympia stage 5 times, to have some pro wins, and enjoy the ride the entire time? Well, we're about to find out because we have 2 amazing athletes joining us here today with Linda Murray and myself, and we'd like to welcome Carly as well as Nadia. And girls, thanks for joining us, but let's get right into it. Let's hear about what even got you guys interested in the sport, and how long have you been pro? Carly, let's start with you.
I started competing in 2015. I was clueless about what I wanted to do with my life. I had no direction. I was no ambition. I really was kind of lost. And I kind of got to a point in my life where I was like, okay, I need to do something. You know, I dropped out of college. I got like a 2-year associates, but I dropped out of university and I just wasn't really doing anything. And I've always worked out. My mom always took me with her to the gym. I always would go to her aerobics class, like literally things since I was like 8. So always was around it. And not having something to focus on around the age of 25 really just pushed me to just hire a trainer, really, is what I did. And I wasn't even thinking about competing. And I believe I brought in, he told me to bring in a picture of somebody who I wanted to look like, and I brought in a magazine of Monica Brandt was on the cover.
Oh wow,
yeah. Like, I wanna
good choice.
I want to look like this. And he was like, well, she competes. Let's maybe try competing. I was like, okay. He'd never trained anyone for a show. I'd never done anything. So he was a great trainer. He had a degree in exercise science. So he was just great. I had a great first trainer. And so I decided to do my first show, and I remember someone saying, you know, these girls, you know, back in 2015, I think, that was a long time ago. And I don't think, 2005, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2005. 2015, and
No, 2005, I'm sorry. Competing wasn't really like popular a lot, right? Like it wasn't trendy, kind of how it was now. So it really like sparked my interest to do something that like no one was really doing. No one was really doing it. And so it kind of gave me something by myself to do. And someone said to me, they said, hey, these girls will really like commit their entire life to this, and like they sacrifice everything. And for some reason that drew me in. Wow. Because then I had something to focus on. Yeah. And that wasn't, you know, what I decided my first show. Like that's not what I thought. But as I kept doing a few here and there, I was like, I can like see myself doing this. Yeah. And then like I literally didn't expect. Yeah, I didn't expect to go as far as I went. So that's kind of how it started.
Wow. 2005.
2005, not 15.
Love it. So what got you interested in the sport?
So I started competing in 2014. I had always been an athlete, like forever, since I was really little. I did basically every sport in high school. In college, I ran track. After college, I did like road races and some marathons and half marathons. But I was not very good at distance running. And like for me to have such like a competitive personality, I'd go to like a marathon and there's like 1,000 people running in it, and then I'd place like 72nd. So like it did nothing for me. And so I had a friend who was competing in bodybuilding, and that was a sport that had literally like never crossed my mind. When I thought about, well, what sport can I do? Like bodybuilding, I didn't know people did that. I was like, I don't know. People out in California do that. I don't know. Right. So my friend was like, hey, I'm going to be competing in a show in St. Louis. You should come watch. So sure enough, I went to the show in St. Louis. Absolutely fell in love with the figure division. Candace Lewis Carter competed in that show, and I like idolized that physique. So after watching the St. Louis show, I was like, you know, I'm gonna give this a try. Wow. And it was so funny because I think about like now the level that I'm at and like the effort that I put into basically every stage of getting to the stage versus when I was like, well, I'm just gonna give it a try. Like literally I bought a suit off of eBay for like
No
$100.
way.
So I like just followed a diet out of a magazine. Like
Wow.
very basic, but I absolutely loved it. And the first show that I did well. So I was like, well, let's get some people who have some knowledge behind me and see if this could be something I actually do. And I mean, it's gone very well. So,
So what year was that you first got started?
I got started in 2014 and
Okay.
turned pro in 2014.
Yeah, that's what I was about
yeah.
to say. You started in 2014.
So it was a long road, is what you're saying. I mean,
I think I did like 5 shows that year, and
Okay.
Nationals in Miami was the last show of the year that I did, and I earned my pro card there.
Yeah,
so,
that's amazing. Figure's a tough division, so for you to show up at the Nationals and walk away and turn pro in that same year.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it was definitely unexpected because this is something that like I've done for fun, like a hobby. Like I love it. Like I do it because I love the sport. And so when I was at Nationals and I was listening to all these competitors backstage, and some of these women were saying this was like their 8th time or 9th time, or you know the however many pro qualifier they've done. And so like I was just expecting like, you know, I just love what I was doing. So to earn my pro card, like that was just a, you know, bonus for me.
So was that your first national show too?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, you're one of those girls.
Yes. Yes. That is not normal, everybody. Do not
Totally
expect
not.
that same success rate.
Yeah, totally not. So it shows that you have an athlete, you know, athletic background because, I mean, there's so many moving parts in what we do. I mean, you had to like learn how to like the weight training, the diet,
The posing.
yes, and in heels.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. So you know what I really love and what I noticed about you, Nadia? I was really surprised because I checked your Instagram out and you lift and move some heavy weight.
Yes.
Like I see you deadlift. Like how much do you deadlift?
Okay, so heavy lifting is honestly one of my favorite things.
Wow.
But it's not always conducive to bodybuilding, so I have to keep that in mind. So when I'm able to lift heavy, like I'm all in.
It's on.
Okay.
One of my off seasons, because doing a powerlifting meet was also something I wanted to do. So one of my off seasons, I prepped for a powerlifting meet, and in that meet, I it was in Missouri, that's where I'm from. I set the Missouri state record for the squat, the deadlift, and there's a record called total, and it's your combined points for squat, bench, and deadlift. So with my squat and deadlift, I also set the record for total for the weight division
Okay.
that I was in. But my deadlift, it was like 360 something.
Right.
My squat was just under 400.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
My
I don't think
bench
I've
was-
ever squatted.
I'm like, how many
a little
plates
over
is that?
200.
I know,
So-
right? Can we count that high?
That's impressive. And what's your weight? Like when you were doing this, because you're not like you don't
I
get
competed
heavy.
in, I think it was the 130 weight class, maybe a little under. I can't really remember.
Wow.
It was just wherever my weight was, that's where I was going.
Right,
So
yeah.
I don't really remember.
That's impressive.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So what was your bench? You said.
It was a little over 200. I think like 209 or something because of like the kilos, but
Right.
I did not set the record for bench. I did not expect to set the record for bench, but that's like definitely a weak point. Well, weaker.
Yeah,
point
and this
short.
all happened like in that first year or second. When did you do this?
The
accomplish
powerlifting meet
this?
I did in 2018 as an
I
off
see.
season to bodybuilding.
I see. So you were like 4 years a pro.
Yes.
And you were preparing for an Olympia coming up, right?
Yep.
Oh wow, it's impressive.
Oh, this wasn't all in 2014.
Yeah.
No, no.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
So that's interesting. So like Carly, you mentioned, did you say that your mom like she did aerobics or you had
Yeah.
you were very much in aerobics? So how did you make that transition from like the cardio activity and the things that we all automatically think about when women think about exercise? We automatically think about cardio to make the
Jane
switch
Fonda.
from cardio
No, that was not my jam.
to really being receptive
Yeah.
to weight training, and that is not going to make you big.
Yeah, so I was like did a ton of cardio because my whole like idea of being fit was I was trying to be skinny at that time, like around like in 2000s, like that's like when like the skinny like wafy look was like in, and like I was trying to achieve that, and I still like had a ton of body fat on my legs. And I'm like, how do you get rid of this? Like I was that girl that was like, how do you get rid of this? And they're like, you can't just get rid of that, right? And so I remember a trainer, not my trainer, this is before I actually hired my trainer, had mentioned like, hey, you're doing too much cardio. And I actually took offense to that. And I'm like, I was one of those people that like, I wore it as a badge of honor that I was doing 2 hours of cardio. I'm doing more cardio, like that was like how you, like I thought. And I know,
what age is this?
I think I was like 24,
wow, okay.
24, 25, And so I remember him saying that, and I like was kind of offended, but then when I hired my trainer shortly after, he was like, he's kind of right, right? And you're gonna have to put on some muscle. And I think I also like finally came to terms with like what my body type really was. I was like, I'm not meant to be skinny, like I'm just not, right? Some people are naturally built like smaller frame, and my legs were just naturally bigger and muscular. So I was like, whoa, like I can do this. Like let me go in the direction that my body wants to go in. And that was kind of like, I was like, okay, this is way easier than I mean, easier in the sense of like not easier, but like it's much more enjoyable. Like I'm lifting and actually challenging myself that way. So that's kind of how, I realized.
Because it is, I would think that it's more of a mental challenge to let go of the cardio, not let go of it, but to let go of that whole thinking, that I need to do more cardio, eat less. You said what?
He's a smart one.
I said I was trying to throw that
you were trying to throw the cardio away. Okay.
I look back now and I literally am like, I do not understand how I could go out and run 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, 26 miles. Like literally, I'm like, how did I do that? Because I like hate cardio. Like that is one thing that like all of my friends know about me. I absolutely cannot stand cardio. I do like walking. I can tolerate that. But anything outside of that, I'm just like, whew. Like mentally too, like I don't know if it's just because I did it for so long. Like I ran in middle school, high school, college. After college, I did the distance running, and I don't know if that's it, but I literally have this like, I just do not enjoy cardio. So, I was
feel you on that one.
happy to like focus more on weight training.
I still love it. I don't think I could. I just love it. I like because I
love cardio.
I don't do normal cardio, so I love like doing stuff that's just super challenging, like metcons and circuits.
Cardio is intense. If you want to be inspired, just watch her like hit circuits.
But you do the same. She do the same thing. Yeah, she does.
She pushes me. I'm like, I gotta level up. I'm gonna go home today.
So tell me what your cardio plan, what it looks like, each of you. Tell me like, contests, like do you do it like first thing in the hour in the morning, hour at night, or 30 minutes, and what is it comprised of?
So mine just always depended on my schedule that day, so I wasn't like stuck to I have to do fasted. I think maybe there was windows that I was like, okay, I need to do it fasted, but it wasn't like do it fasted or else. Like it wasn't, that wasn't my mindset. It was more like do it when you can in between clients, just get it done. That's kind of how I always have done it. Because why am I trying to kill myself to get something done when I can't get it done? Like it wasn't sustainable for me to do that. So it was always a mixture. It was never the same thing. I would always do a couple of as prep, like as I would go deeper, it would increase. And it would always go from 1 session to 2, and I would split it up. And so in the beginning, it might be a couple of hits or like circuits or metcons. And then as I split into 2, I would have to do 1 steady state and then a circuit, but start to pull back on the circuits the leaner I got.
But give her an example of like what one of your ridiculous beast mode hit circuits are like, because I don't think anyone
They're so fun, you guys.
They are.
They make time go by fast. So it's always like 8 to 12 exercises, and it's like maybe like a really fast sprint, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, or maybe 1, or maybe an incline sprint, like on 10%, like at 8 or 9, and then I jump on like the stair mill and do like 2 minutes on level 20, and then jump off and do like kettlebell swings and then jump off that and do like sled pushes and then jump off that and do box jumps and then maybe some kind of like upper body like a plyo push up and then maybe like a walking incline, like weighted walking incline for a break. So I would not rest.
Yes.
So I would not rest. It would just be the transition would be the rest, right? Like 15 to 20 seconds. And then I would repeat that until the duration. So like let's say it was usually 30 minutes, sometimes 45, sometimes.
It's intense.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was fun.
So now that we're exhausted, right? This run through, we're going to take a quick break because now we got to hear about what you do since you hate it so much.
Since you hate cardio.
Yeah.
That's not what Carly does.
But we'll be right back.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
And we're back discussing cardio. Now, Nadia, since you hate it, but obviously it's part of prep, and you embrace it when you have to, but what does your cardio consist of?
Well, very different from Carly. I do a lot of incline walking, so I literally just incline the treadmill to like somewhere between 8 and 15, depending on what I need my heart rate to be at, and then my speed will be somewhere around 3 to 3.5. So very boring probably, but that is my cardio. I typically just do it after weight training. I prioritize my sleep. Good. So, I don't get up too early in the morning just for cardio. Not that I think there's anything wrong that I can't do it, because if it makes sense with my schedule, like sometimes I will say, hey, I'm going to get up in the morning and do my cardio so that after work I can go to the gym and just lift. If I have cardio that's like going to be more than 40 minutes, I'll probably split it up and do cardio in the morning, go to work, and then train after work. So that I get home at a decent hour of the day.
I mean, it's obviously it's a part of it, even though you may not like it, but you lift heavy, you love that part of it.
I love that.
So you can't love everything. You just got to embrace it as best you can.
Yeah, well, it seems like both of you guys train smart. Give us, like with the HIIT, because that was the first time I started to like understand like HIIT. It's high intensity
Interval
high intensity interval training. HIIT. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that, but we called it something different.
Yeah.
back 30-something years ago.
What's the evolution of it?
Yeah,
all,
we didn't have, I think we called it like giant sets and just did, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's.
But the sport evolves, right? They come up, and it's probably just renaming things and making it sound trendy.
It sounds
either
so
way.
much. I remember when we first like the Stairmaster. It was like, oh yay, something different.
Oh, I
you
bet,
know what I mean? Yeah, and that was like one of my loves. Yeah, yeah. So what did you like? You guys have a go-to exercise, one that you cannot. That's your bread and your butter. Like weight training.
Like out of all of them?
Yes.
Oh man.
Like that you would not, like, you gotta keep this. You think, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. Because this is what, like, because I know for me, like squats, it was like, because I noticed when I don't squat, then my butt like drops and lunges. But I would say squats for me.
It's definitely squats for me.
Squats?
I love doing squats, but more specific, like I like doing the free squat. So not like, the ones where you like hook in and like those are great and I like those, but like a true squat, like bar, weights, an actual squat. That's my like go-to exercise. That's what I love to do. It's my favorite thing to do. So when they're not in my program, it's real rough. But that's literally
your go-to.
That is my absolute favorite thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would probably say I won't be able to just choose one, but any kind of deadlift. But not deadlift like
really?
Not deadlift like her.
like
not that.
Not the traditional deadlifts,
not,
like a straight leg deadlift or a.
Well, I mean, I love multiple, but like not. I mean, it's not like heavy like her. Like I'm not going in there and PRing or anything like that. I think that's amazing. I just was never that type of a bodybuilder. But I love like stiff leg, traditional, conventional, sumo, all of them, because I feel like even just like normal, like people who aren't competing, like women want better glutes and hamstrings, but they don't do anything for it. And I'm like, how are you gonna gonna have the glutes in like the back of your leg? So many women complain about like cellulite and stuff like that. I'm like, you have to lift back there. And I think I think no matter what, I don't care how old I am, I'm always gonna find a way to do some type of deadlift, always.
And I love these points, and this is the thing that, I talk to women like to try to explain to them, because they wanna avoid squats and lunges, and you can do squats and lunges. You don't even have to be at a gym. There's no reason.
Body weight is
right. It's just, and I remember when they first came up with the like inner and outer thigh, and I feel like they came up with inner and outer thigh like as a gadget.
Right,
because they know most women were talking about their hips and their inner thigh, and they introduced that machine. And I had clients, I remember they would just like had to do that exercise, and I'm like, oh God, you're killing me. Like, because I know like every set, and you could just get so much more. From squats and lunges. You hear that, ladies? Squats and lunges.
And it's so true. Like, they are the most avoided exercise.
They are.
It's probably because they're so hard. Just do the hard stuff already.
Do the hard stuff.
Just do it. Do the hard stuff.
Get it out of the way. So you guys both we've talked about how the sport evolves from cardio to the equipment, machines. You guys are both very experienced and have had so many amazing moments on stage with Olympia, but it couldn't have all been rainbow and butterflies. It never is, right? So if you could look back on maybe things in regards to your transformation from an NPC athlete to a pro athlete to an Olympia top 5 qualified athlete, what are some of these mistakes or things that you realize that you wish you could have gone back and changed, or kind of set you back in your entire journey?
Do you want to go?
Yeah, so I think I kind of hinted at it a little earlier when I talked about, I think about now the level of competition that I'm at and the choices that I make versus when I first started competing. So like when I first started competing, I truly didn't understand how important things were outside of make sure your body looks good. So for me, it was like I didn't care about like getting the hair done, getting the makeup done, working on the posing and presentation, all like the tan, like all of that stuff. I was like, that shouldn't matter. Like it's a bodybuilding competition. You just need to have a really good looking body. So for a very long time, I didn't think about those things or didn't prioritize them. And I definitely think that was something that did set me back. And it was a mental shift. I was thinking differently whenever I understood the importance of doing the hair, doing the makeup, working on the presentation, and having a total package. My thought then was, I want to be the best. So, and it wasn't just, well, I'm just getting on stage, like, make sure my body looks good. So I think mentally I evolved and started to understand that those things were very important, and it wasn't just about getting on stage and, being super conditioned. So I think for me, it was more of paying attention to the things that they seem to be like secondary to making sure that your body looks good.
Well, think about it too, because at the top level, Olympia, top 5, everyone's bodies are like absolutely incredible. So it comes down to those details. But you're right. I mean, that's something you have to kind of experience and go, wow, okay, makeup might be off. That's going to totally change where you place, because they got to find the little things to give you flaws when you're trying to be top 5 in the world, you know? Interesting. What about you, Carly?
Well, just to piggyback off of that, because I think it's also like shortcutting. Like, oh, I'll just do my own makeup. Like, it does not look the same, okay? It does not look the same. Like, not really like investing in like the more quality, like even the suit or even like hair and makeup, and like really investing in that, because you're already investing in a very expensive hobby. Let's be real. It's a hobby. It's a career for people, right? But like it starts off as a hobby. And so, I even like, other people and clients I've seen like you really need to like make sure you have a budget, because budget it out, because it is important. And I feel like sometimes people don't believe you when you're like, all this can definitely affect your placing.
Oh, yeah,
like,
for sure.
I don't think people, they're like, and it's not a
I
beauty
didn't believe it at first. I was like, you gotta look good. Like, body. It's bodybuilding.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I think it's like, if like, I know no one's asking my advice, but I'm just saying,
No.
you should definitely invest in like the best type of hair, makeup, tanning, all of it, be super prepared. But yeah, so for me, there's a lot of mistakes I made, but I think the thing that stuck out to me the most, as Nadia was talking, was I even as an amateur, I never really took my off season seriously. And I think that's a common thing that people
Yes, it is.
And so it's like, how could I call myself a competitor? And I'm like, in the off season, people were like, she competes.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing, right? And so like,
Right.
but there's a lot of things that go into that, like how you transition out of a contest prep. I didn't have that, right? So you don't know. A lot of people don't know how you do that, and that's so important. And then that kind of led to like this vicious cycle after multiple shows. But then as I turned pro, and the year that I actually turned pro, that off season I had one of the best off seasons because my coach at the time was like, the only way you're going to turn pro is if you start acting like a pro.
Okay.
You gotta, if you want to be a champion, you got to like start acting and doing all the things. So that summer, I was like, I'm doing it. I told my husband, I'm like, hold me accountable. I really want to do it. And that year I turned pro. And then even as a pro, I don't think I really, like, I was just so almost over competing. Like, I'm like, I'm ready to have a break and have fun, that I didn't really take advantage of that window and that time post show to really have a plan to build. I didn't ever really had a plan. I was kind of like all over the place. And so until maybe the past 2 years is when I really was like, I'm taking my off season seriously. I'm gonna know how much food I'm eating. I'm gonna have a plan. I'm gonna have a structure. I'm gonna have a schedule. And you know, it made a difference for me, but I don't think like I don't have a lot of regrets with bodybuilding, but that is the one regret that I didn't do that as soon as I started getting to Olympia, taking those, because I felt like I could have been not just bigger, but I could have just been better if I would have been strategic, and I wasn't. And so, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I had that same thing. The same thing in the off season, and it took me. I won my first Olympia, and I think by my second Miss Olympia is when I realized like what I was doing in the off season. And I'm like, I'm a professional. And in the off season, during that time, we did a lot of guest appearances, but it wasn't even so much like you said about the guest appearance. It was about showing back up on the Olympia stage 1 year later and being at my best instead of trying to get rid of body fat or things
And be
that
better
extra.
than
Just
you were.
be better. And I think all 3 points that you guys made, because I do see that. Especially we sit in the audience and we watch shows, and it always comes down to like a person not thinking out like their hair, not having a professional makeup artist do their makeup. I've seen black women on stage not tan. I've seen people, you know, how do you don't want those things to be the reason for you not, you know, placing it like you should. But those 3 things, totally. What we do in the off season, a preparation, because you guys, you up there and you look so perfect, and people just assume like
It comes easy.
and it's everything, and that's the difference between first and second.
Yeah,
for
third.
sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for absolute sure.
So let's talk about too, like the mental aspect, because again, as you evolve as an athlete, you know, starting out and kind of being like, oh, this is fun, I'm going to try it and see if I like it. It's a new challenge. You got into it for a different reason, just to kind of have a different direction and a goal. But then you become pro and you're on the Olympia stage. How do you guys both prepare psychologically to make sure you're at your best when you hit the stage, that you're enjoying it? I mean, has that been a struggle, or do you have like a routine on show day that you kind of go through to get yourself prepared? What's your go-to method?
I think for like getting actually into prep, I always would say this. It's not actually true, but the stars all need to be aligned. As far as, and not really, right? Like I don't really believe in that, but I really felt like things needed to be in order. Like you're getting ready to literally sacrifice your life for prep, right? Like at this level, you literally have to give up everything. So things just need to be in order, like responsibilities, like where are you with your relationships? Like, you know what I mean? Like that was just something important to me, because that all that stuff is your environment. So what is your environment like? If it's like some things are off and you can't really, that are throwing you off, even with work, like I know everything's not controllable, but like what can you control to make it like this, like, so you can have tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I would have to like, all right, in a month, I got to start getting, it was more like that kind of preparation, like you need to start kind of mentally cleaning up shop, right? Like start thinking about things differently. So it would probably be about a month in advance before prep. And I had long preps. They were like 16 weeks usually. Rarely would I have anything shorter, but I like to start slow. So mentally, that was kind of like how nothing had to be perfect, but it had to be in order. And then I prepared myself to like, what is this year going to be about? Like, is it going to be about a placement? Is it going to be about growing, my personal development? Like, where my faith is very important to me. Like, God, I'm always going to get a close relationship with God because, Lord, I need you today. I need to get through this.
Yes,
today.
I agree.
But seriously, like, that was really important for me. And so always setting aside time to, like, think about, why am I doing this? And I said this to a lot of my clients and people that I work with in general, like, don't ever let it be for me. Don't ever let it be about just the win, because only one person can win. And if you don't, you're going to be left feeling empty and unfulfilled. So what else can it be about besides just winning and a placement? Like, find other things. So I would try to look for, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because it really is too. Because sometimes it wasn't just about bodybuilding for me. It just wasn't just bodybuilding. It had to be about something else, something bigger. And so it's cool to look back and be like, man, I really learned this lesson or that lesson. And I don't have any show day like ritual or routines. Not that I can think of. I know
It sounds
you do.
like you had
But like
all your ritual from the beginning too, though. But
Like a
then you can
process.
just enjoy the day then, because you've done all the preparation. I like that though, because you do. There needs to be a bigger end goal. And I feel like that's where people do get bitter in the sport, because they're just focused on the outcome. And that's all that they can, like, put all the eggs in one basket. But you give all the validation to the judges to say, did I work hard? Did I succeed? Based on whether or not you won. But as a marathon, there's only one winner, but thousands of people do it. And it's like, oh, good job for doing a marathon. But we do our shows and people are like, oh, did you win? Well, why does it have to be that way?
Because if you don't win, and I think I already said this, but just saying in a different way, if you don't win and you worked so hard, you gave up your family, you gave up your friends, you gave up work time, you gave up money, for what? If you do not win first place or whatever it is, what are you giving it up for? There has to be something else. So,
So I guess we're going to take a commercial break, and we will be back, and we'll start with Nadia to find out your plan and how you do it.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else, every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on Trifecta.
And we're back with Nadia and Carly, and we were just talking about preparing mentally and psychologically. So you gave us your take on yours, Carly. Let's start with you, Nadia.
So like Carly, I think my mental prep starts before prep, especially like coming off of an off season, because like my thought process and goals are completely different. So I have to like prepare myself to start prep and get like in a different mindset, because there is like, it's just different. I do think about like, why am I competing? Like, what is the point? What is my goal? Because it is a very big sacrifice I talked a little bit earlier about like having to plan out if cardio is over 40 minutes, like I'm gonna have to get up in the morning and do it, because I also wanna make sure that I'm still able to spend time with my family, spend time with friends, get work done that I need to get done. So making all those sacrifices, like I have to be very planful about when are things going to happen so that I'm able to do all the things. Because if I don't, just my personality type, like I just feel like I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
even though that's not necessarily true that like I didn't accomplish anything, it's like if I don't have a plan of the things that are my non-negotiables and like what does need to happen at the end of the day, like I'm like, I did nothing.
Yeah.
So, from like show day routines or rituals, I don't say I have any like routines or rituals. I definitely value time by myself right before the show, and then even like being backstage, not because I'm unsocial or anything. It's just I want to make sure that mentally I'm focused on like what I came to do. Like I just put in all of this work to be ready to step on stage, and just to kind of center myself and make sure that like I am focused on the goal, like why when I started my prep, what I set out to do. So I like that alone time to be more reflective. Also kind of like encourage myself and kind of celebrate, because at the end of the day, like do I want to win? Yes. Like for sure. Everyone wants to win. But I don't want my prep success to be did I win?
Right.
So I do use that time right before the show to also be reflective and celebrate. Prep is hard.
Yeah.
So
Show day should be the celebration.
yeah, being able to be like, man, you literally just went through 12, 8, 16, however many weeks it was of making all these sacrifices and changing all these things, and it's hard. So using that time to really do what I love about the sport, like get up there and showcase the work that like I've been doing for the past few months. And so for me, peak week, show day, like isn't stressful because in my mind, I'm like, what's the point? If anything, if I'm stressed, like things are going to be worse. Right? My body's going to look even worse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For me, I approach prep from like a very logical standpoint of what's the point of being nervous? What's the point of being stressed? Like you literally just did months of preparing for this moment. So why have that like negative or stressful or anything other than positive and happy? Like,
So if you're really, both of you have embraced like the whole experience, but is there a moment that maybe you were the happiest on stage, whether you won the show or maybe it was just another experience, like outside of the win, really accomplishing something? Is there one moment that you can tap into and you're like, that show, maybe even that prep that really is special to each of you? Nadia, what about you?
I do. So my dad passed away in 2018, and the 2018 Olympia was the first time that I took third at the Olympia. So that moment, and honestly, the St. Louis show. So in 2018, I won the St. Louis show to qualify for the Olympia. My dad got to see me win the St. Louis show.
Wow. I see.
And that same weekend, though, he was also diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. So, I mean, it was definitely a challenging weekend, but my dad embraced my competing that weekend and like would not let me come home, like made me stay and do the show.
Wow.
And I won that show, and it was a special moment for both of us. And then I got to the Olympia in September or October, whenever it was in 2018, and it was September. And he was able to see me take third, which that was the first time I had been in the top 3 at the Olympia. So that was a very special moment for me to have with my dad, because he passed away the month after. So being able to because he cared so much about me competing, and was just always so impressed and amazed and like, what? That's you? Like,
Oh, that's exciting. That's special.
so that was something that we bonded over, and so for him to be able to see me win the St. Louis show and then, you know, take third at the Olympia that same year, that was a moment that like felt good. And
amazing.
when I got that medal at the Olympia, like I just thought about my dad, and I couldn't wait to, you know, get off stage and call my dad and let him know, like, I just got third at the Olympia. So that's definitely a moment that like felt good.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Wow.
Very special.
That is the most amazing story.
Yes.
I should have went first. I should have went first. That is, and like I was like obviously at that Olympia, and I remember like I didn't know any of that, but man, you were so happy, and it was so cool to be right there as you got off stage because you have been fighting for. You might have had an easy pro card win, but like I knew you've been fighting like really hard, and so that was really incredible. Just to like that 5 seconds, just see you be so excited. But for me, mine was. Had to do with my family too. Two things. When I won my first pro show, that was in California. My family was there, and so you guys know most of the time when we compete, nobody's there. And so it's like crickets in the audience when you come out. And so when my family was there, like cheering, hearing them cheer in the audience, and then I actually won my pro card. You were there when I won, not my pro card, I'm sorry, my first pro win.
It was amazing.
And so it was really cool to have your family there because if your family's not there and you walk up and you do well, you're like, there's no one to share it with, you know what I mean? And so that was really amazing. And then that, the year I went to the Olympia, all my family came. My grandparents, my dad, my mom, everybody came. And so and then my first Olympia is, I wish I could bottle that up. I'm getting goosebumps again because everything is just like, it's amazing. It's incredible. It is the most amazing experience. You have no expectations. It's probably the least stressful. You know what I mean? It's the least stressful out of all of them. It's never going to not be like that again. So if you're ever going to the Olympia for the first time,
enjoy it.
But seriously though, I mean, I just had the best time, and my family was there, and also hearing them, and that crowd is huge. And so hearing your family cheer for you is just like, man, I think those are probably the two best memories that I've had. So
Special.
Just really special. So both of you been on that Olympia stage 5 times.
5 times each.
5 times.
Pretty impressive.
You won 3 pro shows.
Sure.
I believe. Yes.
I think so. I think so. Yes, that's right.
And then you won the St. Louis Pro.
Yes.
Yeah.
St. Louis and Louisiana.
And the Louisiana.
Yes.
Wow. So when you, like at the Olympia, the year when you were in the first call out, so I guess that prejudging you knew, right? Like, because usually when you're in that first call out, so that's the thing that I always, because now we're always focused on that first call out. Like you said, like in the beginning, it's like, okay, wow. So how did that feel? Being in that first call out.
Being in first call out the Olympia, I don't think there is like an adequate description of what that feels like. And it's funny that you say like, you question so much when you're on stage because it's like, it's almost like, because like I said, like I go into it and like, if I win or do well, like fantastic, that's a cherry on top because I'm doing it because this is what I love to do. But being in that first call out, I'm like, well, are they actually? Or did they make a mistake? Or are they like, well, tonight we're actually going to put you in second and swap some things. So it's like, I question so much after I get off the stage. I mean, unless it's like, they, at the end of it all, they bring like 3 people back out. Then I'm like, okay. But like the first call out and moving all the people around and I'm like, you say and typically you do, but I'm always just like,
you never want to be too confident.
Now it's so strategic. You know what I mean? Like I kind of knew like first call out, and then like if you're the current champion, like you're in the middle and you're not supposed to move. They start moving me around. I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble. So what was your first call out like?
Well, man, it was a mixture of emotions because I actually didn't get called out in the first call out.
Okay.
I'm getting goosebumps again because I can literally remember it. And I'm like, oh, right? Like I knew that was going to be like, I really thought I was going to be in the first call out. So I don't get in the first call out, but then they pulled some people off. Okay. And so they pulled some people off. and then they called a few more people out, and I think they pulled off the top 3. It's usually when they know 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, they pull you off. So then they called me out like right away, like the first one to go.
That's right.
And I'm like, oh, it's on.
Yeah.
I was like, I literally in my mind I was like, here. I literally the first thing I said was, here we go. Like I still have a chance, right? And then you know, you go out there and I remember coming off stage and asking my husband, I'm like, okay, so like, what happened? And he was like, I think you like got it. I think you got it. For fifth place was my first. And what's kind of sad, you guys, that was the year they decided not to bring the top 5 out. Oh. For some reason.
Was a mistake, though.
Yeah,
Remember?
It was a mistake.
So they only brought the top 3 out, which is fine, like award, right? Well, da-da-da. But you know, they always bring the top 5 out.
Always.
And so that was disheartening. But then the second year, I got 5th place again, and I like got my moment. And so that was, you know, 'cause you literally work so hard for that, like. You don't do it just for the recognition, but it's important. You're like, I just got top 5, like
the top 5 photo.
Like there wasn't even a photo. There wasn't even a top 5 photo, but at least I got my one. And so but it was crazy. It was magical. Even though the first one was very, very magical. So
Yeah, I know when I'm sitting there in the audience, that's the first thing that we pay a lot of attention to. It's like the first call out. So how does it feel if you're not in the first call out?
Yeah.
Like how do you adjust?
Because let's be honest, we see a lot of people who are smiling and then and they're just like and you're like, girl, you got to change that.
Yeah, and I see it. I notice some don't handle it well,
No.
and that's that one thing that, like you said, there's so many moving components and parts to all of this as us being professionals. And I do see competitors like kind of lose it. And I'm thinking, why can't you like still just like really hold it together and play it off?
Yeah.
But like you said, obviously you're bummed, but you are waiting because there's still a chance.
Yeah.
And then if you get that call, you're like, you got to own it, you got to battle, you got to fight.
Yeah, I think for me, like, so the last 2 Olympias I did not get first call out. Not last year, but the year before, I ended up getting like second call out. And so, of course, you're like a little bit bummed, but I had that same mentality. I was like, oh, I could still have a chance. But also, like, I know that when I'm watching pro shows and I see girls break down, I'm like, that looks horrible.
It looks horrible.
I don't want to look like that.
Yes.
I'm like, because you're like,
it looks horrible.
It's actually really embarrassing. You're a poor sport.
Yeah, you are.
Sorry, you're a poor sport if you can't hold it together.
Absolutely.
Because then it takes away from
the girls that
you know,
People would love to be on the Olympia stage.
Totally.
And so if you're not appreciating that.
Yeah, totally. And then so this last Olympia, I think I got like 3rd call out, and I was okay with it because I know what I brought, and it just wasn't what the judges were looking for. But I was so at peace. I literally, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like I said, I wasn't even disappointed. I was like, I hear you, God. I was done. After that was when I knew this is my last Olympia. This is my last show. I'm done. Not because I hadn't done well, because it was already on my heart. So it was like, okay. Like that's a true feeling. Like it's not like I'm not putting on a front. That was really real because I was already having that thought process. So so the year before was the most, it was hardest, but it wasn't like, I mean, we worked so hard. Like, and we're at the Olympia. Like, so you kind of have to talk yourself back to that. You know, when you put things into perspective, like you have to pull yourself back or you're just going to crumble and fall apart, and you can allow yourself to go to a really dark place. And I'm like, no. Too much going on in my life for that. So
and that's our whole thing in the preparation, like we were talking about mentally and psychologically preparing before you ever, you step on the stage. Because when you're prepared, you're really cool because it's like an inside job. You're connected with source, with yourself. You know how hard you worked, and you're good. So that's
I think it's also like that, like the managing your emotions, like after not receiving a first call out, is honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, it's something that like I am still working through. I think just because of like the type of person that I am and have been, like when I do something, like I want to do well, I want to be good, I want to be the best, and not just in sports, like I am that way in every area of my life. And so it's definitely been a process for me. So like as an amateur, like I got used to winning. Like I just won all the time. And so then when I turned pro,
I remember the first show that I did, I was second call out. And so, I mean, it was a little disappointing, but I like gave myself some grace because I said, hey, this is your first pro show. You got second call out. Like, it's okay. And then like when I qualified and was able to get to the Olympia, my first Olympia, like not being first call out, I was okay with that because, hey, it's your first Olympia.
Yeah.
But then once I placed third at the Olympia and was in a first call out, like to me, that was like my new bar. Was, okay, you've got to be in the first call out at the Olympia. And not necessarily because, yes, I want to be in the first call out, but for me, it was like if I didn't make that first call out, which I didn't this past Olympia, to me, it felt like I let a lot of people down. You know, everyone who, because I mean, it is a selfish sport. And so, you know, I was like, I just sacrificed all of this. And now I feel like, you know, I let my husband down and I let my sponsors down. And, you know, everyone was expecting this and I didn't deliver on it. So it wasn't necessarily that I didn't get first call out, and that's, you know, I was sad because I didn't get first call out. It was more of, I felt like I let all these people down, and that was difficult emotionally for me. So I mean, I will never be like a bad sport and like, you know, not handle it on stage, but it was definitely difficult to work through after this year's Olympia of like processing my emotions, because literally I was like, am I done? Should I compete anymore? Like, was this it for me? And, you know, it wasn't just about the placing, because I'm also newly married. And I'm like, should I stop doing this and focus on like starting my family? And, you know, I have a career outside of it. So like there was a lot that went into that, like getting that first call out. But for me, it wasn't necessarily about I didn't make first call out. It was more of I felt like I let so many people down and didn't meet expectations.
Well, you did not, and you know that.
And I've heard that from everyone. So
I'm glad you got an opportunity to say that and tell us that. You know.
So what can we expect from both of you guys? Because obviously with this year, competition plans, obviously Carly, you mentioned that you're probably transitioning to other things. So what can we expect from both of you guys?
Well, I'm done. I'm completely retired, and like I said, I'm completely at peace with it. Oddly enough, I wanted to completely transition out of bodybuilding, and not for any reason, like not a negative thing. I just have done it for so long, and I just feel like that's not where I'm supposed to be anymore. I'm not even supposed to really I'm really just not supposed to be coaching or doing anything like that. And so I just made a complete transition in business. I'm still a personal trainer. I'm finishing that out through the year, and just got involved with being an educator and a strategist for a clinical product company. So completely shifted to the entrepreneurship side of something completely different. Health and wellness.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is, because it's really putting me it's let me let go. And move on to a new venture and completely different avenue. And so I had that set up before the Olympia was over, so that I would not say to myself, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? Because I didn't build like a brand for myself as my name. I never felt that that's what I was supposed to do. I wasn't supposed to be really recognized for bodybuilding. I mean, it was a great platform, right? And built this amazing, incredible platform that's truly organic. But I knew that I wasn't supposed to, I didn't want to be tied to just bodybuilding. That's not what was supposed to be intended. So I had something set up, and so it's been so much fun, and I get to enjoy watching my husband coach incredible people. And so it's fun to sit back and watch and be supportive that way, in a different kind of a way. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Retirement is beautiful.
Right? It really is.
It's a beautiful thing.
And Nadia, you got married recently.
I did.
What's on the agenda for you?
I've had a lot of change happening the past 6 months, honestly. My husband and I got married in 2 weeks after the Olympia.
Wow.
So that was very exciting and fun. I also work, so I've had some really exciting things with my work happening. I got a PHR, which is a professional human resources certification. I do human resources for Target. So I went through this 16-week program to take this ginormous test, and it was really exciting and fun. I passed, so now that stress is over. So I got a certification for human resources, and my husband and I are actually going to be moving to Dallas this summer. So that's been fun. House hunting, selling our house,
nice.
Trying to get plans in order with like transferring with my job, and my husband, he accepted a job in Dallas with RSM, a tax firm, but he went back to school to get his master's. So with all of that, we were like, okay, we're getting it down. We've had so much. And as far as competing, I'm definitely not retired.
That's good.
That,
it's not time.
Was very fleeting of, am I done? Should I be done? I am not retired. So I've got some plans for
That's
this
good.
year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you guys are both very inspiring. I mean, sharing your stories and also recognizing some of the things that you've learned through the process. But, we know we'll see more of you. And then, Carly, with your new entrepreneur endeavors, I mean, good luck. But we appreciate you guys joining us. And thank you. Just keep sharing all this good knowledge, wisdom, motivation to all of our viewers. But thank you guys for joining us on another episode of FemFlex Friday.